So today we are talking about and doing late winter and early spring gardening chores and getting ready for spring in the Pacific Northwest on the western side of Oregon. Now, not all of you are going to be doing these same chores in your zone because we are different climates, different zones. Some of you are hotter than I am, and you probably did this stuff a month earlier. Some of you are colder than I am and may not do this till May. But here in late winter and early spring, this is what we're doing. We're starting off by the first gardening chore being pruning our roses. And I have done all of the other roses except for these standard rose trees here. And what I'm looking for is stuff that's dead, diseased, like with some sort of fungus or something. Branches that are crossing over and touching, branches that are going inward towards the center of the shrub rather than towards the outside, or little tiny spindly branches that are not very strong. And basically what I'm doing here at this moment is deadheading all of the old rose hips from last year's growth. This is the last week of February when I'm pruning here, and I usually like to prune somewhere between the last week of February and the first 2 weeks of March. Now, if you do it like the second and third week in February, that's usually okay in the Pacific Northwest, and I've done it as late as the first week in April before. But this year we kind of had really warm weather and a mild winter, so not only did I have to prune my roses, but I also had to defoliate a lot of the leaves on some of my rose bushes. Obviously, here on this one, there's not any leaves on this standard, but a lot of my rose bushes still had leaves on, so I had to defoliate it. If you have a mild winter and you don't get very cold in the wintertime, you will probably need to defoliate your rose leaves as well. Now, what I'm doing right here is I am just cutting off a dead branch, which is unfortunate. It is in this place here because ideally you want to make your rose bush shrub standard into a cup shape, and this is the main cane and the only main branch that is coming off in this direction. So I am going to have to try and prune other branches so that it will fill in the gap. But anyways, it's really hard to prune a rose wrong as long as you find buds and snip just above a bud just a little bit. It's gonna be fine. Now, of course, the next gardening chore is to stop and pet your cat while you're working in your garden. No, seriously, the next late winter, early spring gardening chore in the Pacific Northwest is cutting back the herbaceous perennials. And by herbaceous perennials, I mean the perennials that will die back down to the ground in the winter time, and cutting off last year's old growth, which is what I'm doing here to the salvia and to the yarrow. Okay, so I couldn't quite get my camera to stand to get at the angle close enough to show you where to cut these. So I'm going to hold this with one hand while cutting with the other, so hopefully it won't be too shaky. But what you want to do is when you cut them back in the spring, early spring or late winter, you just go just a little bit above the green leafy part that's coming out on the base. And you just do that for every stem. This stem might be dead. Yeah, that one's dead. Sorry for the shoddy camera work. It's really hard to prune with one hand and hold the camera in the right angle and position with the other hand. Hopefully I got that. So now it's all off with just the green new growth that's coming out for this year. And that's that. Pretty simple. And And of course, the third gardening chore, which is an all around year chore here, is weeding. And this is the point to which, unbeknownst to me, my husband turned on the irrigation system, and I was literally bending over, sitting really on top of one. Well, that was fun now that I'm wet completely down my legs. I think I'll take that as a sign that it's time to go in. The sun is going down, and we'll see you back over tomorrow. Okay, I have this bed completely done, weeded, and cut back. There's one bin full. And then I have this bed done, and we'll continue our work tomorrow. Now, on to the fun part. Now, this isn't really a gardening chore for late winter or early spring, but it is something we decided to do. My husband went to Costco and we saw these uh, trellises, I guess. They're about 6 feet tall. By the time you put them in the ground, they're more along just over 5 feet. But we ended up getting some for our climbing roses around the brick patio out front. So I was super excited. They're really pretty. They were on, I won't say on sale because I think it was their regular price. They were $19.99 each, which for a trellis is a really good buy. So we're setting these up here. Wow, these look much better than I thought they would. For something so cheap, they look actually really nice. We needed to do something for my roses to climb on, at least temporarily, because my plan, I don't know if you remember when we first moved in, is I want to have a brick wall ruin built around that patio. And I'm not really sure if I'm going to do that because I'm afraid if I did have that built, it would block off the sun from the bed right in front of the patio and the bed right next to the house on the other side of the walkway. So I'm not sure I'm going to go ahead and do that plan. So right now, these trellises are here in the meantime until I decide if I'm going to do that or not. Not bad. Not bad at all, actually. And if we go inside, let's take a look to see what it looks like from the back side inside of the patio. Oh, you can still see the leaves and the pattern. Oh, that's going to be, I think that's going to be pretty. I'm kind of liking this idea more and more instead of the brick wall. Now, back to weeding. And weeding some more. And weeding some more. I tell you, weeding in Oregon is nonstop. It's not just late winter, early spring. It's early spring, late spring, early summer, late summer, early fall, late fall. It's all year round here. And of course, you can't forget to stop and pet your cat along the way. Or at least I can't. He won't let me. What you just saw there right after I got done weeding was, yep, one of the steps for early spring prep, and that is mulching your garden. You also want to try and do it in the fall too if you can, but you don't have to do it quite so heavy in the fall. Another early spring prep chore is fertilizing. And so today we are going to be fertilizing camellias and my little nectarine tree. Technically, I should be starting to fertilize everything else, and the roses should already be fertilized by now. But yeah, I'm a little bit behind on chores as usual. So, this holly tone that we're adding to the camellias, the holly tone bag says 1 cup per foot of drip line, and the drip line is just where the edge of the branches go around. So, basically, the edge of the pot. I would say that this pot is roughly 3 to 4 feet around, so it probably needs about 4 cups, and I am not measuring it with a cup. I hardly ever do. That look was like, lately, I don't care about the rules. Anyway, um, I am measuring. I know my handful is about a fourth of a cup. I have a small hand, and so when I take a handful into my hand, it is a fourth cup, so times that, I'll probably have to, what, do 16 of my handfuls? 4 times 4 is 16, and I don't think I did quite that many here, but I'm sure it's got enough around it for right now. And technically, you should, before you put fertilizer, when you are taking care of your plants in a pot, you should put compost and compost. Just top up the pot with compost first. Of course, after you get the weeds out of the pot, if your pot has weeds like mine does here in this one, get the weeds out and then top it up with compost and then put the fertilizer. But at this moment, when I was doing my camellias, I did not know where the compost was. I did find it before I did my nectarine tree, though, which you will see in a second. Now, my nectarine tree here definitely needs a top up with compost because and soil, because you can see here the roots are exposed, and that is probably why I lost a couple of branches on my nectarine tree. A couple of branches died off this winter, and that is, I'm sure, the reason why. So I'm putting compost here as soon as I'm done weeding the weeds out of this, and then we will put the fertilizer on. Now, this is what I should have done with the camellias after I pulled the weeds. I should have put in the compost first and then put in the fertilizer, but I'm sure they'll be fine. Now, those of you experienced gardeners who are experienced with the tone fertilizers might notice which type of tone fertilizer I am putting on this nectarine tree. I wanted to put some tree tone on it, and we didn't have any, so I was just going to use what we had. We had some berry tone left over, but I grabbed the wrong bag and ended up putting flower tone on it, but I'm sure this is going to be fine. It's got some sort of feed going into it. Now, I was thinking about cleaning out this fountain today, but I'm getting tired, so we're going to go inside and talk about seedling care real quick for early spring prep. But technically, you really should clean out your fountain every 1 to 3 months, but psh, yeah, right. That's never going to happen for me. I'll be lucky if I clean it out once a year, which technically should be in fall before the freeze happens. But we weren't here in this house at that point. So I'm going to do it now before it gets too hot. But let's go inside and talk about seedling care. So, one of the other early spring prep is if you have any seedlings, particularly any annuals that you have started by seeds, or you have bought in some annuals and they love warmer temperatures. So you need to do what is called hardening off, which means you need to slowly introduce them to the outdoors, especially if they've been under grow lights or in a greenhouse. So my seedlings are not quite old enough to go outside yet, but I did get an order of proven winners the other day, which I think next week you'll be seeing what exactly it was that I ordered. But I'm going to start hardening off these annuals outside slowly. And so today I'm going to stick them outside for just an hour, and then tomorrow it'll be 2 hours. And that you want to start them off in the shade. Don't put them out in direct sunlight because that will probably cause them to wilt. So I'm going to go put them out in the shade for an hour. By the third day, I start to let them go for 4 or 5 hours. By the fifth day, another 6 to 8 hours. And then after about a week to 2 weeks, you can start to leave them out overnight. But it is still, we are supposed to actually get a frost later on in this week. So I will not be attempting to leave these out overnight anytime soon. We always get a late frost in April in the Pacific Northwest. It's just like without a doubt. So we are going to take them out for an hour. So we will do this again tomorrow. I'll put them out there tomorrow for 2 hours instead of 1 hour. Even if it rains, which I'm sure it is going to, because it is the Western Oregon after all. And hey, that means I just don't have to water. Now, in the interest of making this video a little shorter, I was going to talk about thinning out seedlings and making sure you check on them that they've got enough water and that they don't have too much water. but I decided not to. I think I'll talk about another seedling care video on its own at some other point. It may not be this year, it may be next year, but anyways, this video is getting a little bit long, so I'm going to call it a day and say adieu to you and you and you. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and until next time, feed the pollinators for me.